Hello guys and girls. If you are watching this video today, it means that on your most recent on-demand that we completed, I felt like the biggest area that I want you to focus on is your format. So what I mean by that is I want to spend some extra time talking about what exactly an on-demand should look like, how many paragraphs it should be, how we should start our sentences, how many sentences should be in each paragraph, things like that. So moving forward for the next several Fridays, that is exactly what you're going to be focusing on. You'll have some different activities to practice identifying and learning the on-demand format. Now, I want to encourage you guys that I don't want you to think about this as, Miss Dangerfield's making me do more work. I hope that you can reframe that in your mind and understand that this school year is very, very quickly coming to a close. I know it may not feel like it, but the end of the school year is going to be here before you know it. And at the end of the school year, when we take that state test, it is your opportunity to show what you have learned this year. Think about it as if you were an athlete. Every time you go to practice, the whole purpose of practicing is so that you can show up and you can do well on game day. This activity and the activities that we're going to do moving forward when we do our writers' workshops are just like practicing for the game day, which is the test that we're going to take at the end of the year. So let's jump into this and get started. You should have the paper that you see on the screen on your desk, and you should also have some coloring supplies. So make sure you have those things. If you don't, go ahead and pause the video and get what you need, and then we'll get started. Our directions today say read the passage, then color code the response that is provided. We're going to read through this passage. I want you to follow along on your paper as I read. Should we bring back the woolly mammoth? New technology can make it possible to bring back extinct animals. Is that a good idea? What if you could beam yourself back in time to the year 25,000 BC? You'd get to explore a world very different from the one we live in now. You might see a saber-toothed cat stalking its prey, or a group of animal skin-clad humans huddled around a fire. Or you might come face to face with one of the most majestic creatures ever to lumber across the earth, the woolly mammoth. With their long trunks and sharp curved tusks, woolly mammoths were the kings of the Ice Age. They stood as tall as a basketball hoop and weighed as much as a school bus. The last of these furry giants died out around 4,000 years ago, but traces of them can still be found. Mammoth remains, some remarkably well preserved, have been discovered in Siberia, a cold region in Russia. Now, some scientists are searching for a way to bring these behemoths back. This research has triggered a debate among scientists, animal rights groups, and the public. Is bringing back extinct creatures a good idea? Not if, but when. Bringing back extinct creatures is known as de-extinction. For decades, this idea belonged more in the realm of science fiction than of actual science. But today, advances in technology have made de-extinction less of a question of if than when. Currently, efforts are underway to bring back not only the woolly mammoth, but other extinct species as well. To understand how de-extinction might be possible, you have to start with genes. Genes are the parts of our cells that determine our traits, the color of our hair, the size of our feet, the shape of our noses. All living things have genes. They are what makes a dog's ears pointy and a bird's feathers blue. To bring back the mammoth, researchers at Harvard University are studying genes taken from mammoth remains. They are trying to find out which genes gave these creatures the shaggy coats and thick layers of body fat that helped them survive in their icy world. Once scientists identify these and other genes, their plan is to insert them into cells from elephants, the mammoth's closest living relatives. Eventually, these cells would be used to create an embryo. The embryo would be placed in the womb of an elephant, and about 22 months later, a baby, part elephant, part mammoth, would be born. Many questions. Today, thousands of creatures are in danger of becoming extinct, from tigers and gorillas to rhinos and elephants. Scientists estimate that dozens of species disappear every day. It might seem obvious that we should find a way to bring back the animals we lose. Yet, de-extinction raises many questions. Which animals should be brought back? Where would they live? What could go wrong? And should humans really be playing God? That is, meddling with nature? For the mammoth, answering those questions is tricky. Mammoth herds probably traveled hundreds of miles a year across the grassy, icy grasslands of northern Europe, Asia, and North America. Those habitats no longer exist, and wide open spaces where mammoths could live are increasingly hard to find. Then there are concerns about the quality of life these new creatures would have. They would likely live in captivity. Is it really fair to bring an animal into the world to be a research subject, a curiosity basically? And what about the elephant mothers? They would endure the stress of frequent testing during their pregnancy. Plus, elephants form close bonds with their young. If a baby mammoth died or was taken away, that would be tragic for its mother. Scientists are also exploring how a mammoth baby could be grown in a lab so elephants don't have to carry them. Exciting opportunity. So, is it a good idea to bring back woolly mammoths? It would certainly be awe-inspiring and an exciting learning opportunity, a chance to bring the distant past into the present. Still, many wonder why time and money should be spent attempting to bring back a species that disappeared long ago. Wouldn't it be better to focus on protecting the animals that are endangered today, most of which are in trouble because of human activity? Maybe scientists should focus on inventing time travel instead. That way, we could see any extinct creature we wanted. Stegosaurus, anyone? Here is the prompt that I used when I was coming up with my sample on-demand answer to this passage. Bringing back extinct creatures is known as de-extinction. For decades, this idea belonged more in the realm of science fiction than of actual science. But today, advances in technology have made de-extinction less a question of if than when. Those in favor of de-extinction argue that it would be an exciting opportunity to bring creatures from the past into the present, while those opposed say nature shouldn't be meddled with in this way. What's your opinion? Write an article to be published in a science magazine stating your opinion on this topic. Should we bring back extinct animals? Use evidence from the provided passage to support your ideas. So, for your assignment today, if you look at the second page that you were given, you're going to see that I have written an introduction paragraph, one body paragraph, a counter-argument paragraph, and a conclusion paragraph for this prompt. The reason that I wrote these for you is because I want to give you a reminder of what exactly a paragraph should look like, and also what should be included in each of those paragraphs. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you should also have some coloring supplies. So what we're going to do is go through each of these paragraphs and we are going to color code them. So on the right hand side of that second page, there's a column that has some different colors mentioned. We'll look at that in just a second. And then the left hand side is where the paragraph is written. We're going to use those colors to underline different information in the text. So make sure you have your coloring supplies ready to go before we move on. The first paragraph I want to talk about with you is the introduction paragraph. If you look over here in our right-hand column, we know that introduction paragraphs should start with a hook, then they should have some background information, and then they're going to end with a thesis statement. Go ahead and take your blue marker or coloring pencil and underline the first sentence of the text. Have you ever heard of de-extinction? This is an example of a hook. Remember, hooks could be questions, they could be a short story, or a surprising fact. But my favorite type of hook to use is a question because I think it's the easiest. Right after the hook, we're going to get into our background information. So you're going to need the color red for that. I also want to remind you that obviously this is a video, so if I'm moving too fast, feel free to pause so that you can get caught up with me. The background information should answer 3 questions. What is the debate? What do those in favor argue? And what do those against argue? So let's look at what I have here. De-extinction is the process of bringing back extinct creatures. Some people support scientists in their efforts to promote de-extinction. This is telling us what the debate is. We're talking about de-extinction. My next sentence is going to tell why some people think it's a good idea. They say doing so would be a great learning opportunity for our world. My next sentence is going to answer the third question, which is, what do those who are against de-extinction say? On the other hand, those opposed feel it would do much more harm than good. They say de-extinction allows humans to play God. Despite these arguments, the evidence is clear. Make sure you're underlining those sentences on your copy of the passage in red. The last part of my introduction paragraph is the thesis statement, and I want you all to remember that the thesis is the most important part of your entire essay. It's going to state your opinion on this topic. So in this case, we're talking about de-extinction and whether we think it's a good idea or not. And the key number to remember with thesis statements is 2. So I'm going to give 2 reasons why I feel that way. I stated scientists should not bring back extinct animals because It would cause animals to have a low quality of life, and it would be dangerous to society. I want you guys to remember that we use our thesis statement to write our body paragraphs. So the first reason that I gave why I think this is a bad idea is because it would cause the animals to have a low quality of life. That means my first body paragraph, which we're about to look at, needs to focus on that topic. My second body paragraph would focus on the second topic, which is how dangerous it would be. Please again, make sure that you have everything underlined in the correct colors for the introduction paragraph. After the introduction paragraph, you're going to write your body paragraphs, and remember your body paragraphs are based off of what you wrote in your thesis statement. Body paragraphs are always going to start with a transition. Since this is the first body paragraph, I used the transition word first, and then I actually took the rest of this sentence straight from my thesis statement. So first, scientists should not bring back extinct animals because, if you notice it's the exact same as my thesis, it would cause the animals involved to have a low quality of life, which again was my first reason in my thesis. I know this might be kind of hard to tell, but the word first is going to be underlined in red, and then the rest of that sentence, which is the topic sentence, is going to be underlined in the color pink. After I write my topic sentence, I'm going to immediately jump into some evidence, and we call that evidence our E1s, and we're using the color blue to identify those today. My E1 says, the text says, then there are concerns about the quality of life these new creatures would have. They would likely live in captivity. I have a good sentence starter. The text says, I have my quotation marks around my quote, and this was cited directly from the text. After my E1, I'm going to write an E2. Remember that stands for explain. This evidence proves the de-extinction of mammoths is harmful because the animals born would spend their entire lives in a cage. In prehistoric times, these animals traveled hundreds of miles per year, but if recreated, they would be confined to zoos and labs, which would be harmful to them. Remember, our E2 should be at least 2 sentences and should be in our own words. Between our first E1 and E2, we're going to have an internal transition. I use the word additionally. You're going to underline that in red. The text states, what about elephant mothers? They would endure the stress of frequent testing during their pregnancy. Again, a good sentence starter, quotation marks, I cited that directly from the text. Now I'm going to explain that piece of evidence. This evidence demonstrates that not only would the mammoths created have a low quality of life, but the elephants that birth them as well. The elephant mothers would be subjected to testing and stress daily, which would be very difficult for them. Then our body paragraphs always end with a concluding sentence, which is just one sentence that wraps up our thoughts. I stated, is putting innocent animals in harm's way the best choice to make? Make sure that you have color-coded this paragraph, matching mine using the colors that are over here on the right-hand side. I'm actually going to have to start a second video because I'm running out of time here, so go ahead and move on to the second video after you have color-coded this paragraph.